hold your peace, I guess. There we go, we're in. So I am Shona and I work with More Collective. My colleague Irene is on the call as well. And we have been sitting alongside Geo now for, what, 3-4 years since we were introduced, Brenda, and it's been wonderful sitting and learning alongside Geo. We are Scottish based. We have a small team of 9 of us at the moment, scattered across Scotland, and we are a single issue organisation. We look solely at digital inclusion, and we work largely within the non-profit sector in Scotland. But we do work in England as well. We've obviously been supporting Geo in Canada, and we've got little pockets across the globe. So, but we are a very Scottish-based organisation, and we have brought in 2 of our good friends who are experts in their field in the form of Emma and Craig today. So Emma has got over 25 years experience working within the voluntary sector with an organisation focused on equality of access and outcomes in learning, citizenship, volunteering, employment, working with disabled people, carers and family. Emma's currently the CEO at Lead Scotland and has been since 2015 and is a Cyber Scotland partner. Lead Scotland widens access to cyber security and resilience across Scotland, and Emma's going to chat to you today. There will be space throughout the session for some questions and answers, but if anyone wants to pop anything in the chat as we go, myself and Irene will gather that as well to make sure it's not missed, because sometimes I know things can pop in and you think, oh, I want to just get that out there now before I forget. So we will be monitoring the chat and we can gather that, but there will be space at the end for conversational questions as well. Irene, do you want to say a quick hello as well?
Yeah, so I'm part of the team at More Collective. My name's Irene McIntosh, and Shona has given the forthcoming attraction of our Emma, and I've got the delight of introducing Craig. So both Craig and Emma, we've worked with extensively over the years. Both colleagues have been working in the space of digital for as long as we have been. And we sort of all work together in different ways. And in our space, we are seeking to support digital champions, in particular in frontline organisations, to develop the digital skills and confidence they need to walk alongside other folk. And that's why the work of Emma and Craig's organisations is so helpful for us. So Craig Steele, who's on the call and who is our first speaker, is a computer scientist, an educator, a published author, a real life published author, and creative technologist who helps folk develop digital skills in a fun and creative environment. And one of the things we really love about engaging with Craig's work is that sort of playful attitude the organisation takes to helping people develop the digital skills they need. And he's also so often at the forefront of what is coming next. And his company, Digital Skills Education, helps folk get the most out of technology at home, in the workplace, or at scale. So I am just going to, amazingly, for once, put myself on mute, keep an eye on the chat panel for questions coming in, and I'm going to hand over to Craig.
Thank you. Hopefully you can see my screen. Can someone tell me if they can see it? Perfect. That's a good start then, isn't it? So thanks for that introduction, Irene, as well. And good morning, everyone, as well. So yes, my name's Craig Steele. I'm a computer programmer. I'm a computer scientist. I'm a gadget geek, and I'm interested in all things tech. So I run Digital Skills Education. So we are a technology education company. And I started it because I really love helping people learn new digital skills. So I thought it would be useful just to spend 20 minutes just now giving you an overview of the types of projects that we do. You can either ask questions as I go through it, or I might save some of them for the end as well. But I want to tell you specifically about what we're doing around the areas of cybersecurity and cyber resilience. But we specialise in all sorts of digital skills. And we think the best way to bridge the digital skills gap is by making learning them an engaging, a fun, and a social experience. So I'm hoping that what we're going to be having this afternoon is a good social experience as well. So we create educational resources, we design workshops, we build video games, and we host online lessons. And we're all about helping people learn these skills, but through interactive learning experiences. So the 3 areas that I wanted to speak about today, these are 3 of the audiences we work a lot with when we're working in Scotland. So young people in the workplace and for older people. So our work is supported in these areas through a mixture of different funding. So sometimes it might be government grants. So sometimes we get money from the Scottish government or from the UK government. And sometimes we might be booked directly by a community group or a workplace or a charity, someone who's paying us to run a course for their group or their team. So I suppose the first thing that I was going to mention, and this is something that I'm sure will come up a few times today, is in Scotland, one of the phrases we're using a lot is the idea of cyber resilience, not just about security and safety, but about being resilient, knowing that, well, what happens if you encounter a scam or something happens to your computer as well? It's important to know not just how to protect yourself, but how can you recover from that too. So I know that a lot of the people who are joining today are adult learning organisations, people who work with adult learners, but I imagine that some of you in some capacity might work with young people as well, whether that's through community groups, youth work initiatives, or through schools as well. So I thought it was worth showing some of the work that we've made for young people that you could take part in. So we actually built a series of interactive, young people age, so some people are saying, 15 to 30. These resources would be fine for that as well. So we wanted more young people to think about careers and have a better knowledge about cybersecurity skills. So we created some interactive games and resources that young people can use to learn more about this area, because it's something that a lot of young people had shown an interest in, but a lot of schools and youth leaders weren't sure how to introduce topics about cybersecurity. So our most popular game is How to Rob a Bank. Now, before anyone alerts Five Eyes on me, I should probably explain ourselves. So in this game, learners become ethical hackers and break into a fictional bank. So we have created a fictional banking website, Strathclyde Bank. And when they play the game, we walk them through step by step how to hack into that bank. And it is based on the real life job of an ethical hacker. And although it's a fictional bank, everything that they're doing is based on the real security flaws that have been discovered in systems. And when we're playing, we actually have a live totalizer on the screen so we can see how much money has been stolen. So we designed these lessons so that no previous technical knowledge or computer programming skills are needed. The instructions are all built into the activities. And feedback from teachers and youth workers is they like the fact this allowed them to introduce this topic without them having to prepare or test anything in advance. So to play these activities, it's all done through your web browser. So as long as you can connect to the internet, you can take part. The activity is designed to be played alongside a live stream. So they're all watching us on a YouTube live video. So just like you'd see gamers do on YouTube or Twitch. And the learners in their class are all playing along at the same time from their classroom. So this is what we call our live lessons. So our most recent live lesson was actually about maths and numeracy, wasn't cybersecurity, but we had 9,000 young people from Scotland and further afield taking part. And because it's live, it means that we can give them shout outs if they're doing well, and we can offer them hints and tips, or we can spotlight the work that they're doing on the live stream. So we made it as easy as possible for participants to get involved by removing any of the barriers that we could. So they didn't have to sort of download specialist software. They didn't have to even sign up for an account. This would work on anyone who's got a web browser and a laptop or a computer that they can connect to. So it isn't just one game, how to rob a bank. This led us to create a whole series called Cyber Skills Live. And we've now got a whole bunch of educational games showing different opportunities. So it includes things like ethical hacking, data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence. The real goal was to bring alive these digital skills as part of hands-on lessons. So yeah, some of the really popular ones, if you go into our website later, you could check out I'd suggest How to Steal a Pizza, which is about penetration testing. I would also suggest Defend Stirling Castle, where you get to see the parallels between medieval security and modern cyber security as well. And if you're into arts as well, I would suggest Code a Data Selfie with JavaScript, which is all about how could you create your own self-portrait, but using your personal data as the medium that you're going to work in. So we all know that our personal data can create a picture about us, but what if we were to actually use code and build a picture of ourselves? So that's definitely worth playing that one. So we've been delighted at the response, the number of learners who've taken part. Sometimes it's in schools, colleges, and universities. So we offer all these, our Cyber Skills Live program, all the games are free, and we don't actually get any funding to keep running these or doing it, but it's so fun and we know that thousands of people have used it, so we keep it up there. And although most players are from near Scotland, we have groups taking part from all around the world as well. So North America, yes, people joining from Canada, Australia, South Africa, New Zealand are all hotspots. I don't know why, but for some reason in Wales in the UK, there is like a bunch of 30 schools that we've never spoken to that are using it all the time, and I have no idea why they're using it. And I think that's quite fun when you're able to put something out online and suddenly it's getting used by a community somewhere. There's another group of teachers in Houston, Texas, who are using it a lot. And again, we don't know how they found it, but yeah, that was quite interesting. So I'll give you the links for these at the end, but Cyber Skills Live is going to be a website that you can use if you're working with young people. And do you know what? Just any adult who wants to sort of experiment with this and maybe learn about careers in that area. It's written for 12 to 15-year-olds, but as you know, anything that you write well can be used by lots of different age ranges as well. So our second audience is about cyber resilience in the workplace. So we get funding from the Scottish Government to do this particular project, and it was about how can we help workplaces and workers be more cyber resilient. And our approach was to work with trade union reps to offer cyber resilience training for workers across Scotland. So this was a different approach that we were trying. Rather than going to employers directly, working with trade union partners to approach offering free workshops that way. So these are these are not interactive games. These were normally face-to-face over things like Zoom or Teams. And our most popular courses for adult learners are these. So by far the most popular one is how to keep your social media safe, secure, and unhackable. Because we know that cyber criminals are targeting Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok users. They try to take over our accounts, they try to steal our money or trick our friends, but you can stop them. So we speak about how you can adjust your social media settings to make it more difficult for a cyber criminal to take over someone's account. And how to tell who you can trust on social media. I'm sure over the past year, your experiences of being able to understand who is real, who is not real, why are people sharing certain things on social media is more challenging than ever. So we talk about that. And we also talk about how to spot and avoid online scams. So talking about learning about social engineering, which is the way that cyber criminals try to trick people and steal their information. And our last one, take control of your personal data on your phone. It was a different approach again, where we recognised that there was a trend for people who were interested in well-being workshops and lessons. And we thought we were already targeting people who were obviously aware of things like security. How can we reach a different audience? So we took a different approach and we created a set of workshops that we call our digital wellbeing workshops. And it's all about how people can get a better relationship with their technology. Like maybe they're aware they use it a lot, or feel as if they're always on their phone, or they're worried about how much of their personal data they're sharing with companies. So we've made this workshop which allows people to take back control of their digital privacy, so they can see how they can adjust their settings, how they can make sure that they're using secure messaging apps. And the idea is that when you do these things, you're actually practicing better cybersecurity practices as well. You're cutting down on the amount of personal data you share. You're being more mindful about what apps you choose to use. So we have resource pages that are suitable for all these topics. And again, they'll be on my website and I can share them with you at the end. And our most popular, so that was kind of last year. I'm not going to say much about these, but our most popular courses for 2025 so far in terms of bookings have been another well-being one called Reset Your Relationship with Your Phone. And we're seeing a lot more interest in artificial intelligence as well. So we're offering courses that are practical introductions to AI for people in work. Earlier this year, we also ran, well, at the end of last year, actually, we ran a course called How to Rig an Election with AI, which we ran on the eve of the American elections. So we had quite an interesting international audience for that. And it was all about how our tools like AI, how could they be used to manipulate public opinion, to change the way they make you feel about things, both on a grand scale in terms of how might that affect things like elections, and does it? So we look at the research, but also from your own point of view, how can you analyze a post and sort of say to yourself, is this real? Can I trust this as well? So that was a popular one. I'm not sure when the next elections are in Canada, but maybe that could tie into that at some point. So what we found is by doing this in workplaces with trade union reps, this was a really good way to cascade learning as well. We found that most people told us that they had shared what they learned with their co-workers, which was important. And what we found is, I don't know if any of you are members of trade unions or you've been involved in one, but we found that trade union members are more likely to share what they've learned compared to people who are not in a trade union. And they're also more likely to apply what they've learned as part of their job as well. So they realise that that helps them personally, but it can also help their employer as well. And that was really important because when employers were giving us, staff time off, and this was everybody from like prison officers, retail workers, council workers, teachers, nurses, to get them to release their time was really useful. And then we think that there has been some impact on how it has then affected their own workplace's cybersecurity as well, which, considering it's just a 2-hour short course, is quite interesting, that if you can make an intervention and you can make some small suggestions, you can actually make quite a big difference. So another resource that you might find useful is we've also made a series of videos on YouTube, which are open for anyone to use, that answer the things that basically, what are the things that my mum, my dad, my aunties, my uncles message me and say, can you show me how to do that on my phone? So we made a series of videos that are like 1 minute long called How to Do That, how to do some of the most common things on your phone. And we found that this was a really nice thing to be able to send to people through WhatsApp, and not just through emails as well. So these videos have had over 100,000 plays on YouTube now. So we're not quite YouTube influencers yet, but it's nice being able to, again, as someone who's worked in teaching and educating as well, it's so good. See, when you make something once and you think this is really useful, how many times have you been like, oh, I'm never going to be able to use that again, or I was only using that for a one-off, but actually being able to see it being used by other people just encourages us to make more. So in terms of what else you could get access to in the future, I'll share my email address at the end. And if you want to be on our mailing list so that you get more of these resources when we make them, I'm happy to share them with you as well. So we're making an interactive video series now. The idea is that it can be shared by email, by WhatsApp, or in a newsletter, or even embedded in someone's own website. So again, this might be something that's useful for you. So what we're going to be doing is asking our people who've been on our courses, what is it they would like to learn next? So our website, digitalskillseducation.com, and I'll put that up at the end. Last bit, cyber resilience for older people. So I'm glad I don't have to talk at this next bit because Kirsty has recorded a video. So I'm going to play Kirsty's video.
magazine, helping you be smart, safe and connected. This magazine will help you get the most out of technology. We're focusing on two things: how to stay safe online and ways that you can improve your digital well-being. Have you got your copy yet? You can order Dot Magazine for your community group.
That was a bit more of an electronic remix than I anticipated. I think that just didn't come through. Did it sound all right, or did it sound crumpled to you? It sounded a bit weird to me on my computer.
Yeah, we got it, Craig, but there was like a, yeah, it didn't,
Yeah.
we could understand it, but there was a slight.
Yeah. Kirsty doesn't normally sound like that, I should say. So, yeah, interestingly, what we've done is I've been talking about digital resources this whole time, but more recently, what we've found is there's been a big need for people who want printed and physical resources. So our team have made this, which is Dot Magazine. So it's a brand new magazine that is designed to help people be smart, safe, and connected. And inside the magazine, we share a lot about staying safe online and discussing ways that people can improve their digital well-being. So I have a section in it where I help people spot scams. My colleague Daniel has a sort of agony aunt section where he answers people's questions. And basically, we wanted to create a physical magazine that was accessible for everyone. But this one is particularly focused on women aged 60 and above. And we've borrowed from the style of magazines that are kind of lifestyle home magazines that are popular. So I can think of some UK based ones. I'm not sure of ones that might be available in Canada, but if you think of things like Vogue or fashion magazines as well, taking some of those, can't believe we just compared ourselves to Vogue there for a minute, but that was the closest I could come up with. So we've made 20,000 copies of these magazines, and they're being distributed across Scotland. And we've just had a partnership now with the National Cyber Security Centre in the UK, and another 10,000 are going out to our friends in England and Wales and Northern Ireland as well. So this has been really nice because so many people came to our workshops and wanted something physical that they could take home as well. Something that is probably something that we've done deliberately, but is probably not obvious why we've done it, is we do not currently make a digital version of this magazine available. There's a couple of reasons. One, we wanted to focus on making it a printed thing and making people value the printed thing. So it wasn't just a case of something that if we went to an organisation that they would just say, oh, that sounds great, could we just email it out? We were like, no, we want you to actually get this in the hands of people that we think are going to benefit the most. So we were only giving them a physical copy of it. It's not that we would never do a digital version, but if we were doing a digital version and we were aiming it at the same audience, we need to make sure it's accessible. We need to make sure that the colours and the fonts and it works with e-readers. And at the moment, the design is for print. And anybody who's worked in that knows that you can't just take something that works really well in print and turn it into a PDF and say, yeah, that'll solve it. that fixes it. We would want to take the time to adjust that. So yeah, potentially, if you would like a Canadian offshoot of this magazine, I'm sure we could talk about that as well. The actual magazine as well, we've made different versions for depending on where it is, so we can localize it. So we have made a version that is more suitable for people in England, because we had numbers for like Citizens Advice Scotland, the Police Scotland, and our colleagues in England were like, yeah, we'll need to change that. We don't want someone in Dorset accidentally phoning up the wrong police service. So yeah, that was quite fun, and that's been an enjoyable thing. So I'll put this in the chat as well. If you want me to email you any of these resources, so Irene, I've seen that you've been putting loads of good links in the chat. Fantastic. If you want to email me to email you some of these specifically, you can follow that link in the chat, or you can scan the QR code as well. But at this stage, I think that's me done my sort of overview. Irene, are you wanting to do questions now, or are we switching to more speakers first?
There haven't actually been any questions in the chat at the moment. Craig, that was an absolutely awesome presentation. Thank you very much. I'll just give it a wee minute to see if there's any hands come up with questions, just in case anything's buzzing around in folks' heads.
Yeah, I'm aware it's a
now.
lot to take in within 20 minutes.
Perfect amount, and the resources are just absolutely exceptional. I'm just going round, I'm doing a wee flash round the pictures to see if anybody's got their hands up or a digital hand up. Nope, but still a lot of excited and eager beavers. Some folk have got their cameras on so I can see.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not offended. That's great.
Thank you very much. In that case, I am now going to hand over to my brilliant friend Emma to talk about the incredible work they have done over at Leeds, Scotland. And I am going to be Emma's right-hand gal in this. So she's going to be shouting every so often. Next slide, please. And I will be hopefully keeping up to pace with her, but I'll put myself on mute and
there we go, I'm off mute now. Thank you so much, Irene, and it's great to be here, so thank you so much for inviting us. I don't know how to follow Craig, in fairness. That's such a great presentation. I'll do my best. So I've got 9 slides, and today really we're an adult learning provider, but I'm going to particularly talk about our cyber project and how I guess it aligns with what you do, and I've tried to bring to the surface some practical courses and resources that you can use in your work to support others to stay safe and secure online. So as I say, I've got 9 slides to share, and there's links and things going into the chat and links that you can use afterwards. Next slide, please, Irene. So it's just a kind of context setting one. So we're a national third sector community-based adult learning provider in Scotland. We support disabled people and unpaid carers. So it's a targeted approach from 16 right through to older adulthood, mostly disabled people and some unpaid carers. I guess our USP is that we go into people's houses to support people to learn. And as an SQA provider, we can also deliver qualifications. So part of what we do is we've been delivering personalised learning in people's houses, as well as doing webinars and bigger events. We're really set up to reduce educational and social exclusion, and this is our jigsaw of 4 key kind of operational streams in the service of our strategic objectives. In Scotland, disabled people are more likely to be digitally excluded, and educationally are twice as likely not to have recognised qualifications. So if you're interested in what we do in a more general adult learning sense, please contact me about that as well. We can share what's happening in Scotland. But back onto the next slide, please, and I'll tell you a wee bit more about our cyber project. There's actually a really strategic approach in Scotland, and Craig will know this too. We're always in loads of forums. The sectors, the private, the public and the voluntary sector work well together as a partnership here. And there is a framework, a cyber resilience framework, which has been put in the chat, which has got associated learning and skills plans, third sector plans. There really is something that everybody knows it's everybody's business, and that there are threats, and there's a good partnership there. So our work is set against this framework, and it's also set in the context where Police Scotland tell us that cyber-enabled and cyber-dependent crime are increasing. We understand from tech companies that IT kit is becoming more technically secure by design, and you can obviously see companies changing the way you can use their services. They're putting more security in place, etc. But all our citizens need to still be able to access key messages about how to improve and evolve their own knowledge, understanding and skills as the threat continues to evolve. What we've also found is it's not enough to learn in a kind of one-off approach. There's a lot to learn, and everybody has to keep updating their knowledge around this. Some people can learn and transfer that knowledge into other platforms and other contexts, and some people need more support to learn, as you'll all know. So we've got these 6 strands for our project here. I'm not going to go into them in massive detail, but it's really because we've taken a blended approach to try and engage people in different ways. At the heart of it, we're not experts in this. The National Cyber Security Centre in the UK is the trusted holy grail, but we know that a lot of people aren't just going to their website. And actually, it's not enough to even just create a bridge to the website. We as organisations, as you'll know, we have to try and make it easy for people to engage with the key messages, which are the same as the trusted messages given by the NCSC. So we create a bridge to them. As Craig is, you're saying you know you're in partnership. We get them to check our courses and resources. We must be all talking this single point of truth, so that we don't all go off piste and try and interpret what we think being safe and secure online looks like. And that's what I mean about there's quite a good strategic approach in Scotland, people working together. And our key task is, how do we extend the reach to people who need those messages translated in different ways, or who need to be engaged in different ways? One of the things I'll not mention further in the presentation, but you'll see formal qualifications in cyber. Part of what we do is try and create a pathway into these cyber industries. They're seen over here, what is this cyber? That's for someone else. We're trying to widen access, not just to learning good cyber hygiene, but actually thinking, do you know what? We need more people, more diversity in these industries, and we need people to realise that actually, let's demystify that. You can have that as a pathway too. So we've done bits and pieces there too. So I guess through the blended approach, we do strategic work, operational work with direct delivery, and extended reach through partners like yourselves, I hope. On to the next slide, please. Some of the back one, please, to the easy read. Perfect, thank you. I guess some of the problems we discovered when we started to look at the NCSC stuff was people were, don't like the word cyber resilience. People prefer to talk about safe online. And so the jargon is tricky. But then even beyond that, we then talk to lots and lots, hundreds of disabled people and 50 organisations who support disabled people, and said, what formats do you need this guidance translated into? And people said easy read, British Sign Language, community languages, Braille, etc. You'll know the formats, a massive range of them. So we kind of got funding from the Scottish Government to try and translate a lot of that. And it costs money to do that and commission it. So I'm hoping by sharing what we have translated into easy read, that you can pick those off the shelf and use those. So these formats are what people in Scotland with learning disabilities have said are useful. So to save you some money, you might want to go in and use it. The British Sign Language ones may not be so useful, because when I was looking online, American Sign Language is quite different, it would seem. And people use one hand when signing, not two, and some of the signs might be different. So they may or may not be so accessible to a Canadian audience. An Anglo-Canadian audience is what I would say. So that's something to check out. And we've also got community languages, and we've translated into 8 community languages. Obviously, there are a lot more community languages, but that's what we're the budget for. So again, it's about what are the alternative formats that your audiences need, and are there some out there that you can use globally already, like some of the ones we've got, or are there ones that you might want to create yourselves? And we've got recruited sessional staff with lived experience to help extend the reach. So for the easy read ones, we have a sessional member of staff who has lived experience of learning disability. So she has really helped us deepen our reach within that community, because she's got credibility. And we commissioned an organisation who are a disabled people's organisation to create the easy read, and then we commissioned a sessional worker with lived experience to actually review the drafts and make sure that that they're really speaking to people. So that's another thing that we found really useful to do. as well. And it does help you reach in those communities more. So I guess that's an example of some of the resources that we've used. They're on the shelf, they're on our website. Crack on, feel free to use them. Thank you very much. On to the next slide, please. It's coming up to Cyber Scotland Week, and I know you're thinking, yep, and we're Canadian, but there's a lot of free webinars. Why not sign up? Who's going to know? And I'm sure they'd all welcome you. There's a huge range of subjects. These aren't actually the subjects that are on the Cyber Scotland Week, but these are subjects that we offer at Lead Scotland, and we've got lots of courses in all of them. So I thought I'll leave it up there. But if you go into that website, the Cyber Scotland Week website, you can see what's available, and there are a lot of online things. So become part of, why not get involved? And there might be something in there that's useful. This is about not reinventing the wheel and working together globally in partnership, I would say. Cyber Scotland, who run the Cyber Scotland Week, is the partnership of organisations across the sectors that I mentioned earlier. I mentioned the NCSC, that's like the holy grail for the UK, and in Scotland, our single point of truth is the Cyber Scotland website. Again, it might be a useful model that you have in Canada. Where's your single point of truth? How do you make it easy for adult learning organisations to think, and third sector organisations to think, where do I go for the key partners, the key resources, and to meet people? So I don't know where it is in Canada, but that's where it is in Scotland. It may give you some ideas. We've got a third sector page, and in there we've actually got a new one-page guide for charities. What do they do in the event of a cyber attack? So it's as well as cascading learning out for people who use your services. How are your organisations getting supported? How are these small grassroots organisations getting supported to think about how to protect themselves? On to the next one, please. In trying to make it easier for people to engage, as well as one-to-one home visits in communities, small groups, online webinars, we've also got an online learning platform, and we've got about 22 short courses about cyber. And you could work through them as staff, as volunteers, or you could support people to learn using these. All it takes to sign up as an email. We decided not to go down the route of asking too many questions about, because we thought that might be a barrier. So we've really tried to make it pretty open in that respect. And we're trying to put up more courses as we can as well. So that's another resource that you can use. I guess, as an organisation, we do support people right through their educational pathway, and we thought there's so many online courses now, and sometimes it can be quite daunting for people. So we built this online learning platform as a kind of, it's dead simple to learn online. You just need an email to get started. And we thought if people can build confidence actually using our site, they're more likely to then go on and more fully use a lot of the online learning platforms that are out there. So that was partly our motivation there too. If you're thinking about building yourself an online learning platform, JP Morgan and Chase built this for us through a charity scheme that they run, and they were really good in doing it as an iterative process. So that's a wee aside. Somebody built this for us. On to the next slide, please. This is our newest development. We found this open source checklist, and it had about 258 actions you could take to stay safe online. And we thought, that's marvellous, but too many actions. So we've reduced it down to 60, because there didn't seem to be something that you could just go on and just work through a checklist of, am I doing this, am I doing that to stay safe online? So people can work through this. We don't store your data, anything like that. You just go on, and again, you can sit with people, and if you say no or not sure, it'll direct you to My Lead, our online learning platform, or to other checklists to try and build your knowledge. Again, it's like just trying another tactic for people, and for some people, this kind of way of learning is, I guess, a way to engage people. We're just trying to turn people's heads any way we can to this subject, quite frankly. So that's something you could absolutely use as well for free. And the next slide, please. I think we're coming up to the end, don't you be worrying. So this is a strategy work, and I thought, it's good to do direct delivery, but this is, we're trying to advocate for accessible resources at every turn. Every forum I sit in, it's kind of like, great, and have you is this going to reach all our audiences? So this was us talking to a campaign manager, and they, after that, thought, oh, right, I need to think about, do I need easy read? Do I need BSL, etc.? So that's something that we try and do all the time too. And so as you're engaging your audiences, you know, you'll know part of your work as adult learning providers is having people to have a say and to advocate. So where you see there maybe isn't resources, maybe aren't resources where accessible, if community adult learners can advocate for them and ask for them, it'll make it better for the next folk. So I suppose we do a lot of that, trying to do some strategic work so there'll be less need, I suppose, in the future for us to have to do all that sort of bridging work there. But anyway, and oh yes, and another thing we do, and you could do this as well, is when there are national campaigns running, then we piggyback on the back of that. And let's say the latest one was sextortion. And we thought, well, we've got some sextortion information in easy read, and we've got a wee course. So when the national campaign runs out, we say, great, and we've got some easy read there, so you don't need to duplicate that, just point to ours. So by working in partnership too, we can try and sort of reduce costs, work together, extend the reach of audiences. So I guess that's some of the stuff we're doing too. There's lots more I could tell you about the project, but I think I'm quite happy to stop there and hand over for questions. So I'm hoping the take homes you can get from this are that there are some courses and resources that you can use with it. And by involving your audience in your delivery model to extend your reach, that's really worked for us to get the depth. And I'll give you one last example. We found that there was an organisation who of deaf people who are actually from minority ethnic backgrounds. So for them, British Sign Language was their second language, and English was their third, and they had very low levels of English. So we're going down and doing in-person one-to-one support with them, because a lot of the online resources, etc., are just passing them by and they're not using them. And it was only after they started to get scammed that they thought, right, we need to do something about this, but we need people in the room with us. Like Craig's saying about the Dot magazine, you need the physical thing. Sometimes you just need to be in the room with people. So my other take home is you can't just put things up online and expect people to engage with them. We're really needing to reach into these communities and work sometimes in quite an in-depth way with people over a period of time to start to build confidence and get people to turn their heads to it. Anyway, I could go on and on. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma. That was really brilliant. And I think you touched on one of the reasons that we end up drawing on your resources or drawing on Craig's resources is, I guess, Scotland's a wee place. And we're all trying, you'll have heard from both speakers, the way we're trying to reach into communities. That's always what we're trying to do. And part of that is going, it's really brilliant that Leeds does it this way. It's really great that Craig does it that way. And then we're able to all sort of lean on each other to sort of play to our strengths in that regard. And I think, Emma, you'd mentioned as well, that idea of there's no need to reinvent the wheel. We're really excited to see this sort of global partnership in the way Emma's Easy Read resources and Craig's cool AI resources can be drawn on in different spaces as well, because the messaging is often so similar. I was just going to look and see if there was any questions in the chat panel. I don't know, because I was busy in present mode, so I didn't really see if there was any. I'm not seeing any coming up, but I guess one of the questions that I am always really interested in is, I'll come to you, maybe Emma first, is whether or not you maybe have an example story of a learner that's been supported by the organisation, especially in this sort of space of cybersecurity, cyber resilience, and what that's looked like for you. And I'll ask the same question for you, Craig, to have a wee think about whether that's in a union context or whatever. Emma.
Yeah, brilliant. So I mentioned that we run some qualifications, and so we run a level 4 cyber fundamentals and the internet safety. So it's a combined two awards for the price of one: combined learning and teaching resources. And we've reached out to trustees in disabled people's organisations, because we thought this would increase the number of disabled people with qualifications. It would also increase the skills base for disabled people saying, I'm going to be a trustee in an organisation, and now you've got the added value of me bringing cybersecurity and resilience knowledge as well. So I can think of one person who for them that was the case. So then they go back to the ranch, not just to their family, but to the organisation which they help govern. So that was one good example. And another one is there was another woman who came along to one of our courses who was unemployed. Sort of skills, it gives the person the edge. It's not just digital skills. This is about cyber awareness, understanding, knowledge. Give her the confidence plus an extra bit of skill set to actually find work. And so it's so important in the workplaces people have these skills, but unless you do a wee bit of learning around it, you don't really understand what you're talking about. You're not going to be confident in an interview, you know. So I suppose that's a couple of examples of people who have gone through the qualification and how we've taken a targeted approach.
I think that targeted approach is really integral. One of the things I love about both your pieces of work is the need sometimes for those tangible resources as well. So it's all very well having those digital ones, but for instance, the easy reads, we encourage some of the organisations we work alongside to be printing them off, because we know a lot of the folk that we're supported need that approach. And similarly, a lot of other people like to learn in the way that you're sort of describing there with that example, in a methodical online, consolidating their knowledge as they go. And all of us are different. And the context in which colleagues on the call today are working, all of us are working in different spaces with different human beings. So there is never this one size fits all model, which is why more certainly as an organisation cherry picks different stuff and recognises we're not the experts in all of these different things. Craig, do you have a wee example that you'd like to share?
Yeah, it got me thinking about, why does sometimes these different approaches work well where another approach might not work as be as effective. So there was a public sector organisation in Scotland that unfortunately had been involved in a cyber attack, and it was quite a bad one. So a lot of their staff were locked out of their computer systems. It was a ransomware attack, and they were all affected by it, and it was in the news and stuff like that. And basically what happened after that point was the staff were all aware something had happened, but they didn't quite fully understand what had happened, how it happened. And they were given training by their organisation about what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. But we went in there with the trade union learning approach, and basically I ran one of these workshops that was more about talking to them about explaining basically what a ransomware attack was, how it actually worked, and the way that they would go about protecting themselves personally from that type of thing at home, but also understanding what can they be looking out for when they're at work as well. And the feedback that we got back from that one was, by having a different person come in that wasn't from like their IT team, that wasn't from their managers, allowed them to ask a lot more questions that they were maybe worried about asking in work. They didn't want to be seen to be caught out. They were I think everyone in that organisation was a bit panicked at that point. They didn't know what had caused it. So sometimes having someone else who is not linked to that particular organisation or that coming in and delivering training in a different approach can actually complement the work that their security team were doing. And allow the staff to ask things that they might not normally get to ask. Similarly, at the end of multiple workshops in different organisations, people hang back at the end and they say to us, oh, actually, can I just ask you this one thing about, an email that they've got that's come in or a text message? And sometimes people just didn't have access to someone at home who would have that knowledge or would be approaching it in a way that they saw as friendly and approachable as well. So I think, Irene, that's my kind of thoughts about how sometimes, although it is, someone might say, oh, their employer should be giving them the cybersecurity training they need. You can give them complementary training.
And one of the things that we find as well is creating those safe spaces for open conversations. So we certainly have this as well in terms of staying safe online type conversations. Staff quite often don't disclose that they're worried about that stuff too to their employer. So we can be that neutral holding space. And then we also find that sometimes those spaces, which Emma will probably be able to talk to better than I can, those spaces being held by people with lived experience as well can really make a difference. So I think that idea of you working from within the unions as well is creating that space of trust. You're not coming in as the employer, you're coming in as part of a collective experience almost. And I think, but I don't know, what were you going to add in there, Emma?
Yeah, no, just from what you're saying, I'm just going to put another course in the chat. It's, you know, you're thinking, how do you use this as well? Well, there was a group in Fife who thought, well, there isn't a course for us. And so we worked with the OU, you know, and long story short, they wrote together a course that then the Open Universities put up for free. Again, that's freely accessible for anybody to use. And actually, I thought that was quite powerful as well. We're trying to engage people. And when we went through this whole process, that's exactly what we found, Irene. A lot of the staff who were supporting people said, we don't know this either. And yet we're meant to be doing this, but we're slightly worried about this too. And that sort of stuck with me. And I thought we need a lot of these courses and resources. It's like, it's not always, you know, let's blur the line between, you know, people who know and people who don't. Let's assume that there'll be lots of people who are staff, volunteers and learners who don't know themselves and maybe feeling like they're learning together at the same time. And that's okay, as long as we talk about it and we keep building resources and keep upskilling everybody. So one of the things I love about this course is it was written by learners, for learners, with staff to actually get around that whole issue. And then you create a resource. So then people don't feel stupid because they don't think I need to design a course for it. It's like there's one there, we're building knowledge together. So, you know, it's powerful, isn't it? And it's good for learners to build confidence. The group who built that, I said, you know, at the time, it's like, you've written that's gone on a global platform. You did that, it's out there. And that's a really empowering thing as well. The them and us thing always worries me, the poor souls that are going to be, you know, at threat of attack. It's like, no, this is for everybody. For all of us. Potentially, that's right, yeah.
And I think that co-design element or that participatory approach, however you sort of look at it, whether you're sort of coming at it from Craig's sort of union backgrounds or the way Emma's describing a lot of the stuff we do as well. So we do a lot of work around supporting people experiencing homelessness, for instance. And we would sort of use some of that expert knowledge that we might gain from sort of Craig's and Emma's resources type thing, or from National Cyber Centre and stuff like that. And we bring that into those spaces. But the only way that's kind of meaningful is to listen to the context of people's lives. It's always about the stories that they're telling, the harms that they might be facing, that they're encountering, and can we all talk in a way that's meaningful? So I think, Emma, you touched on that sort of translation idea, not just about, you were talking about literal translations, but I think there's also that translation of key cybersecurity messaging and what do we need to do about it. So I wondered if you've got sort of any final takeaways really that you'd like people to leave the call with today, because I'm not seeing any more questions on the call. Sorry, I've just had my phone just banged down there. If anybody's got any, I'll come to you probably first, Craig. Any sort of final takeaways that you would like for folk on the call?
I think, I mean, I know your organisations will already be thinking about these things. And I just hope that by checking out the different resources and finding what's going to fit for your audience as well. And then something that both Emma and I have done is taken an authoritative resource, like something that we would normally use, like from the National Cyber Security Centre, and find a way that you would adapt that key messaging to fit your learners, whether that's through, for our young people, it's that live game experience, whether it's for the adult learners, older adults, and it's like a magazine. I think one area in that I want to sort of play about with next is delivering a course on WhatsApp, as in via WhatsApp, to see what that would look and feel like, because there's a lot of people who are using WhatsApp are comfortable with that, but might not be comfortable enough with using a course that you click through on a website. So that's something I'm going to be hopefully playing about with later this year. So yeah, that's just about taking that big information and thinking about how you would then shape it to fit your audience.
Taking that trusted resource first. Thanks, Craig. Emma, over to you. Final take.
I guess it's just that piece of involving people. You know, what we found is that adult learners are really in sort of keen to be involved, actually, and by involving the people who you're actually supporting in quite a representative way, you know, a really broad sort of section of the learners you're supporting, I think it just enriches everything that you're going to do, and it extends the reach, and you'll learn more along the way, things you didn't know at the start, actually. So I think that that's been quite powerful all the way through. And I know that takes time, and I know it does, but we found that to be really quite valuable, because I guess we're trying to help people sustain what they're learning. We're all trying to do that, aren't we? We're not parachuting in. That's what you'll be doing, adult learning organisations. You're not parachuting in, doing something in a way. It's about how can we do something like that will be sustained. And one thing will lead to another is what we've found. And that's been, so that's been powerful on top of everything else I've said today. You know, as I say, I've put in a question there, do people think there might be things that they could use back at the ranch? Hope so. But equally, if you find afterward and you think, gosh, there's something else that you think we should know here in Scotland too, you know, make sure you say to Irene, and we can share whatever you're doing as well. I mean, we really are. I guess we can globally work together here too. And of course, Scottish adult learners will be quite excited to think, oh, Canadian adult learners have done this. And, you know, it's other ways of people working together.
Thanks so much, Emma. Thank you, Emma and Craig. I think one of the things I always really love about digital inclusion work and working alongside folk and really listening to people and listening to their stories is exactly what you said there, Emma, that you always learn something as you go along yourself. And so I'm very grateful to our two speakers for sharing their knowledge, their insight, and their learning. And hopefully everybody on the call today is taking a wee bit of learning home for themselves and can bring something back to the club for us all to learn from you all in the future. Thanks so much for making space for us today. We are wrapping up just now. If you want to stay in touch, please do through the usual geo routes and directly with colleagues that are busy posting their dates in the chat panel. Go on and enjoy the rest of your day in Canada as we head towards tea time in our house. So thanks very much, everybody, and we'll see you all later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, folks.
Thank
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.